What would you do if your girlfriend swore she was flying out to care for her sick mom, and then you saw her stroll onto your flight with the guy she told you not to worry about? Let me set the tray table for you. I'm Jake. 31. Logistics guy. Calm by default, sarcastic by survival. A man who alphabetizes his spice rack and still buys the off-brand cereal because the name brand tastes like marketing. I live in Denver with a stubborn houseplant, and, until very recently, the woman I was pretty sure I'd marry. Her name is Natalie. 28. Brown eyes with a built-in filter, the kind of smile that could talk a judge into probation. She loves two things: family first, speeches, and pretending to hate attention while arranging it like furniture. On a Thursday night, she came home white-faced and shaking. Her mom in Tampa had a neurological episode. Maybe a minor stroke. ICU. She had to go. She was already searching flights with trembling thumbs when I stepped in, did the good boyfriend thing, and used my points. By 5 a.m., I was hugging her at security, telling her to call me every night, and promising to keep her favorite tea ready for when she got back. She squeezed my hand through the plexiglass like a movie heroine. You're the best, Jake. I'll be home in a week. Right. A week. That's how long it took for the Titanic to hit a glacier and for me to realize I was the band playing the violins. The first crack in the hull came from Jenna, the barista near my office who knows more about everyone's lives than HR and Jesus combined. I told her Natalie flew out for her mom. Jenna said, "Weird. I thought I saw Greg at the airport this morning." Greg being the work friend. The platonic coworker, the safely married guy who reminds me of my brother. The walking bingo card of red flags that I'd waved off because I didn't want to be that guy. I smiled, tipped, and died internally. That night I did recon. Greg's Instagram is private, but his buddy's isn't. And there it was, a blurry gate selfie captioned, "Boys' Weekend." Airplane. With a familiar figure passing in the background, hair up, wearing my gray hoodie, the one that smells like detergent and denial. My chest didn't drop. That's a myth. What happens is your brain puts everything in a spreadsheet and autosums your dignity. Numbers don't lie, even when people do. The next morning, I called in sick. Booked a same-day round trip to Tampa for Sunday, the day she said she'd fly home. I paid extra for the seat map so I could pick the row behind 11B. I don't work in tech for nothing. If I can optimize truck routes in a blizzard, I can optimize heartbreak at 30,000 feet. Sunday afternoon, I'm boarding. Ball cap low, hoodie up, face of a man who's lost the receipt and intends to find it. I slip into 12C. Plane hums like a fluorescent light. People do that overhead bin ballet where everyone pretends a duffel is a legal carry-on. Flight attendants smile in that. We've seen worse. Way. Then 11A arrives. Greg, khaki confidence, cologne like a promise he won't keep. He shoves his roller in sideways like he owns Boeing. He sits. He texts. He smirks. And then 11B. Natalie. Sunglasses inside. Hair in a messy bun I've untangled 100 times. The hoodie, my hoodie, half-zipped. She slides in, tosses her purse under the seat, leans back, exhales the kind of breath you take when you think you've gotten away with something. She doesn't see me. Life rarely gives you that dramatic face-to-face in the aisle. It gives you a view of the back of a head and a decision. The safety demo happens. Seatbelts. Exits. Oxygen mask instructions for people who still can't manage a gas pump. The nose tips up, and Denver becomes a board game below us. 40 minutes in, Greg offers her a chocolate bar. I watch his hand hover then land on her thigh like a trespass that's been pre-approved. She doesn't move it. The plane isn't the only thing cruising. I click a photo on the lowest brightness. No flash. No triumph. Just documentation. This isn't for court, it's for my future self, the one who will someday accuse me of remembering it worse than it was. Future me, here's your proof. Row 11, aisle armrest, a hand where it doesn't belong, a woman who knows exactly where she is. I should explain something. My plan wasn't to explode. I'm a logistics guy. We live by 3 rules: measure twice, load once, and don't argue with physics. The physics of a plane say that drama gets you zip-tied and on a no-fly list faster than you can say viral. So I breathe. I catalog. I let the cabin noise wrap around me like static. It would have stayed that way if not for a bump. Not the turbulence. The steward bump. Flight attendant, mid-50s, a veteran, backs through the aisle with the drink cart, and Greg, who has the spatial awareness of a selfie stick, elbows it. Coke hisses. I skitters. Natalie laughs, that tinkly laugh you use when you want to seem cool under pressure. Around the guy you're sitting with. Sorry, Greg says. Not sorry at all. I lean forward just enough to be heard. You should apologize to her, I say, meaning the attendant. He half turns, annoyed. Natalie's head tilts. My hat shadows my face. Bro, mind your. He stops. Recognition is a slow train when you don't expect it. First the voice lands, then the outline of a jaw, then the memory of the hoodie you've seen on your coworker's boyfriend a dozen times in photos she made you like. Jake? Natalie says, but it's soft, like she's hoping I'm a bad dream. I lift the brim. Seat 12C. I say. Small world. You can feel the cabin recalibrate. People who pretend not to eavesdrop for sport live for moments like this. A woman across the aisle lowers her book like a periscope. The guy by the window in 10C removes one AirPod. The flight attendant with ice on the floor squares her shoulders in a "Do I need a whistle?" way. I smile. Not a mad smile. The kind you practice in mirrors when you rehearse not being the villain. How's your mom? I ask. Natalie's mouth opens. Closes. She's stable. Good, I say. I was worried, especially since she looks a lot like Gate B12. Greg makes a sound men's store for bar fights and fantasy football. Dude, this is none of your business? I lean forward over the headrest. My voice stays low, my words don't. She lives with me. You sit next to her on planes you didn't pay for. We're in the same business. Natalie presses a hand to his forearm. Greg, stop. Then to me, pleading. Jake, I can explain. I know, I say. You're talented at it. The seatbelt sign dings on. Captain's voice. Folks, we're expecting a few rough patches over the Gulf. Keep those belts fastened. The timing is biblical. Greg puffs up. Men like him mistake volume for virtue. Stand up if you've got something to say. I glance at the attendant. She shakes her head just enough to say, not today, hero. Zip tie vibes are in the air. I'm good. I tell him, and tap my phone. I don't need to perform. I need to remember. Natalie goes for soft diplomacy. Jake, please? Not here. Where then? I ask. The ICU gift shop? The plane shudders. Overhead bins rattle like maracas. The flight attendant's hand shoots to the cart. She plants her feet, one of those power stances you only learn at 36,000 miles of altitude. Everyone stay seated, please, she says. We'll be through this in 5. Greg takes the turbulence personally. He unbuckles. Starts to stand. Bad math. The plane drops 3 inches. Gravity reminds him she doesn't care about his CrossFit PR. His knee bangs the armrest. He lurches sideways and, because there's a cruel god of choreography, lands with a palm on my shoulder. I push it off. He shoves the headrest back. I grab it. Somewhere in row 14, a phone camera wakes up. Sir? The attendant says, now full command voice. Sit down and buckle up. Greg's face has that red hue that says he's not used to being told, no, without dessert afterward. He started it, he says, which is adorable. Natalie whispers, Greg, please, because even she can hear the weight of the word. Federal. Another jolt. The kind that makes everyone laugh to hide the fear. The flight attendant rams the cart into the galley and jogs back with 2 restraint straps I never believed were real. Their existence makes me weirdly optimistic about humanity. I raise both hands, palms out. I'm seated. I'm calm. Greg points at me like a daytime judge show contestant. He's stalking us. I bring my voice down to bedtime story level. Greg, buddy, I pay half her rent. I bought her ticket. I drove her to the airport. If I'm stalking anyone, it's my own dignity. He makes the move then. The one that shifts it from words to police reports. He reaches back as if he's flipping the bird to the universe and catches my hat brim with his fingers, yanking it forward. It's dumb and junior high and enough. I stand. We all know that moment when your body decides something without consulting your brain. I rise just enough for my knees to clear the seat. My hand comes up, not a fist, just an open palm to swat his wrist away. He lunges, awkward, off balance, physics finally filing a complaint, and clips my shoulder. My elbow bumps his chest. He stumbles backward into the aisle like an inflatable tube man losing air. I don't hit him. I don't need to. He hits the armrest with his hip, the aisle with one foot, and the floor with the other. A chorus of, "Whoa," travels the cabin like a gossip wave. The attendant is there in 2 strides. "Sir, on the ground." "You, sir, back in your seat." "Right now." Her fingers steel. Her eyes granite. Suddenly we're all children again, and the substitute teacher knows the principal personally. I sit. Hands visible. Belt clicks. Voice calm. Hard doing parkour. Greg tries to stand but can't find north. The attendant plants a hand on his shoulder. "Stay down or you'll be restrained. Your choice." He flops back like a fish that just remembered it's not a bird. Natalie's crying now, quiet, mascara brave. She twists in her seat to face me. "Jake, please." "I didn't mean." "Yeah," I say. "That's the problem. None of this means anything to you until it costs you something." For the rest of the flight, the plane vibrates with barely contained judgment. Phones pretend to nap. Throats clear essays. No one speaks to us directly. It's a jury that has reached a verdict and is bored by summation. 10 minutes before landing, the attendant kneels beside me, voice private. "You okay, sir?" "I'm fine," I say, meaning it. "Thank you." She nods, then leans over to Greg. "Sir, you'll deplane last. Denver PD will meet us at the gate to take statements." She pauses, eyes sliding to Natalie, who has folded into herself like laundry. "Ma'am, you too." Natalie looks at me like I hold a switch that can turn off gravity. "Jake." I take my phone from the seat pocket. I open notes. I type 3 lines so clean even turbulence can't smudge them. "I saw you." At altitude, where lies don't float. "We land soon." So does this. The wheels drop. The flaps widen. The city spreads its grid like a welcome mat I don't deserve and do anyway. As we touch down, I feel it in my bones, not the jolt, but the line snapping. The one I kept pretending was elastic. Turns out it was glass. We taxi forever. Denver does that, miles of concrete that give you time to rehearse who you'll be when the door opens. I decide on a man who doesn't argue with physics. At the gate, the seatbelt ding is a gunshot. Everyone pops up like toast. Except rows 11 and 12. We wait. 2 officers step on. Professional, efficient, indifferent to melodrama. They talk to the attendant, then to Greg, then to me. They take our names, our versions. I keep mine short, factual, boring. Boring wins? They ask if I want to press charges. I say no. I'm not here for a courthouse romance. I'm here to end a habit. The officer gives me that suit yourself shrug and moves on. When it's finally my turn to stand, I don't look at Natalie. I don't flinch at her whisper. I don't collect last words like souvenirs. I stand, lift my backpack, step into the aisle. As I pass her, I set my hat back on and say, not loud, not cruel, just true. "Tell your mom I said get well soon." I walk. Off the plane. Into a concourse that smells like pretzels and consequences. My phone buzzes, a text from my buddy asking if I want to grab a beer. I type back, make it 2. Then, actually, make it 3. Outside the terminal, the air feels different. Colder. Cleaner. Like pressure has a moral setting and someone just toggled it to clarity. I'm not proud there was a scuffle. I'm not ashamed either. Sometimes gravity needs a witness. Sometimes dignity needs a seat assignment. And sometimes the only way to land is to accept you were never flying together. You were just two people in adjacent rows, headed to very different places. The thing about flying is that you're trapped. At work, at home, at a party, if you smell lies, you can walk out. But on a plane? 30,000 feet above the ground? You're stuck in a metal tube with recycled air, pretzels, and your betrayer. No exits, no distractions. Just raw truth bouncing off the cabin walls. And that's what I was living. Row 11, seat B, Natalie. My girlfriend. My supposed soulmate. Row 11, seat A, Greg. The co-worker. The work husband. The safe married guy. Row 12, seat C, me. Silent. Watching. I thought silence would be my shield. That I'd just observe, gather proof, land in Denver, and end it all with surgical precision. But silence has weight, and that weight pressed harder with every mile. Greg leaned close to her, whispering in her ear. She giggled, my hoodie draped around her shoulders like a trophy he hadn't earned. My throat burned. Every laugh was a knife. Every brush of her hair against his shoulder was a reminder that the woman I loved was performing, forever, with someone else. The flight attendant came by with the cart. Drinks? Snacks? I asked for water. My voice came out steady. My hands didn't shake. But Greg ordered whiskey. Natalie asked for white wine. They clinked cups in a mock toast. And I caught it all, the smug smile, the secret ritual. It was their first-class champagne in economy. I wanted to scream. I wanted to stand up and yell. She's mine! That hoodie is mine! Her life was mine! But what would that do? Get me zip-tied by air marshals? End up on TikTok as angry guy in row 12? No. I needed precision. I needed patience. That patience snapped 90 minutes in. The turbulence started small, a ripple through the fuselage, a reminder of how fragile metal can be against sky. The captain's voice crackled. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated and keep your seatbelts fastened. Greg didn't listen. He never did. He unbuckled, stretched, leaned over Natalie like he owned her space. His elbow jutted back, right into my tray, knocking my cup of water onto my lap. I stood. Reflex. Pure muscle memory. Hey, I said, too calm. Watch it. Greg turned, smirk curling like spoiled milk. Oh, sorry, man. Didn't see you there. Didn't see me. That was the truth of it, wasn't it? Neither of them had seen me for months. Natalie glanced back then, eyes wide, pupils shrinking. Recognition hitting her like a free fall. Jake? I tilted my head. Smiled without joy. Small world. The air in the cabin changed. Passengers perked up like meerkats sensing a hawk. The woman across from me lowered her book. A teenager 2 rows up held his phone a little higher, angle perfect for a viral clip. Greg shifted in his seat. What the hell are you doing here? Same thing as you, I said. Flying. Funny how planes work. Natalie grabbed his arm. Greg, stop. Then to me. Jake, I can explain. You already did. I cut her off. At gate B12. With your head on his shoulder. Murmurs rolled through the rows like a gossip wave. Greg wasn't built for humiliation. He puffed his chest, leaned across the armrest. Man, you don't want to start something here. Start? I raised an eyebrow. You started the moment you sat in 11A. The plane jolted again, trays rattled, overhead bins clanked. A perfect backdrop. The flight attendant hurried over. "Gentlemen, please stay seated." Greg shoved back his chair, slamming it into my knees. Pain shot through me. That was it. I shoved it forward again with my legs. Hard. His drink toppled, whiskey splashing across his lap. The cabin gasped. Natalie squeaked his name. "And Greg?" Greg stood. Big mistake. He twisted into the aisle, pointing at me like a courtroom accuser. "This guy's stalking us." I stood too. Calm. Controlled. "I live with her. I bought her ticket. If I'm stalking anyone, it's my own dignity." The flight attendant raised her voice. "Sir, sit down." Greg ignored her. He reached across the seat, grabbed my hat, and yanked it forward like we were in middle school. My vision darkened for a second, but my hands didn't hesitate. I swatted his wrist away, stepped forward into the aisle. The plane shook with turbulence again, and he lost balance. His shoulder slammed into mine. Instinct took over, my elbow shot out, catching him in the ribs. He grunted, stumbled back, arms flailing. Passengers gasped. Someone shouted, "Fight!" Natalie stood, trying to grab his arm, but he shoved her back into her seat, not hard, but careless, enough for the jury of strangers to gasp again. He came at me, fists clenched. I ducked. His swing hit air. My knuckles connected with his shoulder, not a full punch, just enough to send him sideways. He fell against the drink cart, knocking over cans of soda. The attendant screamed, "Enough!" 2 men in row 10 jumped up, holding him back. Another grabbed my arm. The plane's cabin was chaos now, voices shouting, babies crying, the mechanical ding of the seatbelt sign echoing like a referee whistle. Natalie was sobbing, mascara streaking. "Jake, please stop." I looked at her. Just 1 second. 1 burning second. "You stop first," I said. The captain's voice came over the PA, iron sharp. "We will be landing immediately. Security will be waiting at the gate." Greg snarled, thrashing against the hands holding him. I stood still, chest heaving, but my voice calm. "I'm done." And I was. Done with her. Done with them. Done with this entire performance. When the plane touched down, police boarded. They cuffed Greg first. He was still spitting curses, blaming me. I gave my statement, short and clean. The photo of them together on my phone did the rest. Natalie tried to reach for me as they escorted us off separately. "Jake, please." I pulled away. "Your mom must be proud." That's how betrayal ends at 30,000 feet. Not with whispers. Not with excuses. But with gravity. Airports are designed for movement, but when you get escorted off a plane by 2 very calm men with radios, time slows down like it's got jet lag. The jet bridge felt a mile long. The carpet stole sound. People, my fellow jurors from row 9 through 22, pretended to check their phones while absolutely not pretending. I kept my eyes forward. Greg kept talking. Natalie kept breaking. Security split us into 3 little rooms with a table, 2 chairs, and the kind of fluorescent lights that make everyone look guilty. An airline supervisor came in first, gray blazer, legal pad, voice like a policy manual. She asked me to tell it straight, no theater, just facts. Easy. I remained seated until he pulled my cap. I said. He shoved his seat into my knees. We made incidental contact. I defended myself. I sat back down when instructed. "You know them?" she asked. "My girlfriend," I said, nodding toward the door Natalie had gone through. "And her co-worker. Or whatever title they use at 30,000 feet. The supervisor winced, professional sympathy. She ticked boxes on the form. "Do you want to press charges?" I shook my head. "I want to go home." 2 airport police officers took their turn. Same questions, same answers, same board pens. I showed them the photo, hand on thigh, the hoodie, the seat numbers framed by the aisle. They did that cop thing where their faces don't change but their notes get neater. "All right, Mr. Jake," one said, softening. We're issuing him a municipal citation for disorderly conduct aboard an aircraft. He'll likely face a temporary ban with the airline pending review. We appreciate you staying calm. The flight attendant deserves a medal, I said. And maybe new shoes. He nuked the cart. That almost got a smile. They let me go first. In the hallway, I passed Natalie's room. Through the narrow window, I saw her shoulders shake, a tissue pressed to her nose, a woman learning, maybe for the first time, that gravity applies to her too. I didn't knock. I walked. Concourse C smelled like pretzels and jet fuel and the end of something. I texted my buddy Aaron, landed. Bar? He replied with a pin and a beer emoji. I pocketed my phone and stood for a second, watching that river of arrivals and departures. Everyone moving. Me too. Natalie's name lit my screen before I hit the escalator. Natalie, where are you? Please don't leave. I need to explain. My mom. I typed, then deleted. Typed again. Landed on 5 words. We'll talk at the apartment. No exclamation. No question mark. No ground given. I Ubered. The driver tried to make small talk about the Broncos. I gave him a generous tip for not trying harder. Home looked the same. The doormat was still crooked. The entry shelf still had our mismatched bowl for keys, her sunglasses, my spare change, that glossy postcard from Tampa I bought for her once upon a time because it had a pelican wearing aviators. Irony is everywhere when you're looking for it. I put my backpack down. I stood in the gap between kitchen and living room like I was at a border crossing deciding which country my soul wanted to live in. Then I started moving. Trash bag. Laundry basket. 2 boxes. The logistics of dignity. I cleared a shelf for her things in the entryway: passport, spare charger, the novel she pretended to be reading, the moisturizer I always mixed up with the hand soap. I put her suitcase by the door. I folded the hoodie, my hoodie, and laid it across the top like a flag over a ship that sank in shallow water. I poured a glass of water. Stared through it at the city beyond the window, wavy and unfamiliar. My phone buzzed. Natalie, I'm on my way. Please, Jake. Please don't be cruel. I didn't mean for any of this. There it was again, the religion of intention. Sincerity as a blanket you pull over a burned house. I set a timer on the oven for 10 minutes. I didn't know what it would be for yet, only that there had to be a limit. She arrived like weather. Keys in, door open, storm face. Jake, she breathed, stepping into the threshold. I swear. I held up a hand. Kitchen, I said. No adjectives. Just nouns and verbs. She blinked, thrown by the grammar. Saturday. Palms flat on the table, like she was being graded. Up close, she looked smaller. Not younger, smaller, like a picture printed at low resolution. Mom did have a scare. She started. She's okay now. She got discharged the same. What hospital? I asked. She paused. St. Joseph's. I waited. Full name, I said. She swallowed. St. Joseph's. Medical. Street? I don't, Jake, why? Because you're telling me a story, and I'm asking for the map. She shook her head, tears forming like they'd been waiting. It's not like that. Greg was going to Tampa for a conference anyway, and we thought if we flew together. Economy romance. Efficient. We could, talk, because things have been so weird with us and… Adjective. I said. Try again. Her eyes flared. You're being cruel. Boundary, not cruelty. I tapped the counter. The moment you said sick mom, you activated every protector switch I have. I bought the ticket, I set the alarms, I packed snacks. You walked through security wearing my hoodie and climbed into a life that wasn't yours. You clinked with him. It wasn't like that. I leaned in, voice steady. It was exactly like that. And it's wild to me that the person who didn't mean it is demanding gentleness from the person who meant everything. She flinched like language had hands. The oven timer ticked in the background, a soft metronome for our last duet. She tried again, lower. I made a mistake. You made a series of very consistent choices, I said. A mistake is when you pressed the wrong elevator button. You booked a pairing. You took a seat. You put your head on a shoulder and hoped the clouds would hide you. Her tears went full theater. I was scared. Of what? Of feeling. She searched for a word that wouldn't add to the indictment. Stuck. The timer hit 8 minutes. I didn't rush. I didn't slow. You want freedom, I said. I want honesty. Those aren't enemies until someone takes them to war. Can't we just reset? She asked. We can go to counseling. We can take a break and then. We already took a break, I said. It was scheduled for Flight 447. Row 11. You seemed very relaxed. She looked at the boxes by the door then. The hoodie. The suitcase. The clink she could still hear echoing at altitude. Her voice turned small. Are you ending it? Yes. A tremor moved through her like turbulence. Just like that. Not just like that, I said. Like hundreds of tiny moments where I gave you my time, my listening, my money, my trust. Like a picture slowly coming into focus. Like gravity, eventually. The timer said 6 minutes left. I stood and poured her a glass of water. She didn't touch it. I can fix this, she whispered. I can make new choices. You can, I said. And I hope you do. Over there. I pointed to the door. You're throwing me out? No. I'm not your landlord. I'm not your father. I'm not your life raft. I'm simply stepping off the boat you drilled holes in. She blinked at that, an image she couldn't outrun. Is there someone else? I smiled and shook my head. There's someone else I haven't been in a long time, a man who won't set himself on fire to keep a liar warm. Silence settled. The good kind. The kind where the room accepts the new shape you're giving it. Her jaw worked. She stood too quickly and swayed. Caught herself on the chair back. What about the lease? I'll cover it to the end of the term. I nodded at the envelope on the counter. There's money for 2 months and the number for a mover who owes me a favor. I booked a storage unit in your name for 30 days. Take what you want. The rest I'll donate. You planned this, she said, a little awe leaking into the accusation. On the ride home from the airport, I said. I had 22 minutes of freeway and a lifetime of pattern recognition. The timer said 3 minutes. She tried for one last rope. Greg's wife will leave him, she said, like that was justice, like one woman's migration justified another's trespass. I hope she does, I said. I hope she finds a life where seat assignments make sense. But my job isn't to manage your consequences or his. Do you hate me? She asked, a child under the question. I took the longest breath of my week and gave her the shortest mercy. No. Hate takes energy. You take exits. She put her hand on the counter. Not reaching for me, reaching for balance. I watched, not unkind, not tempted. The timer hit 0 and beeped once. I didn't touch it. The sound occupied the space where we used to exist. I'll go, she said, voice almost level. Not tonight. I need to. Tomorrow by 6 p.m., I said. Text me a time and I'll be gone. Your name's off the Wi-Fi and utilities by Friday. The lock changes Saturday. You really did plan this. Logistics, I said. It's what I do when I care. She laughed once, a broken thing. You're so calm. I'm done performing, I said. You taught me that at cruising altitude. She nodded. Picked up the suitcase handle. Let it fall. Picked it up again. Step 1, accept gravity. Step 2, roll. At the door, she turned. If I call, will you answer? No. She swallowed. If I write, will you read? Maybe. If I change, will you see me? Not my job, I said, and it landed gentler than it reads. She went. The door clicked. The hallway breathed. I exhaled everything I'd been holding since gate B12. I silenced the oven timer. The apartment felt both larger and smaller. New math. I made a sandwich. Ate half. Tossed the other half because it tasted like grief. Took a shower that smelled like lemon and relief. Sat on the couch in a towel, phone face down, heart face up. And then, because I promised this would be voiceover ready and life ready. Friends, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Cheaters change names. Patterns don't. More stories ahead. Now, back to ours. I slept like I was paid to. In the morning, I woke to a text from an unknown number. Unknown, hi. I'm Megan. Greg's wife. Can we talk? I stared at it a long time. The universe doesn't always send you closure. Sometimes it sends you a mirror. I typed coffee. Neutral place. Noon. Then I added the address of the cafe near my office where the barista knows how to read faces and when to leave refills like lifelines. Before noon, I called my landlord. We're splitting the lease, I said. I'll take full responsibility. She'll be out by tomorrow. Rough? He asked. Necessary, I said. I forwarded my statement to the airline incident email. Thanked them for the crew. Asked them not to ban Greg on my account. He'll find a way to be small without corporate help. I sent one last text to Natalie. Your slot with the movers is 3 to 6 p.m. tomorrow. I'll be out from 2 to 7. Please leave the set of keys on the counter. She replied with a single heart, the color of a stop sign. I didn't respond. At noon, I walked into the coffee shop and found Megan, tired pretty, a wedding band placed carefully next to a black coffee like she didn't want to wear it while she told the truth. Jake? She asked. Yeah. We Saturday. I'm sorry, she said. For what? For all of it, she said. For choosing a man who cheapens rooms. We traded dates, not feelings. Gate numbers, not theories. Evidence, not adjectives. She had screenshots. I had a photo. We had more overlap than either of us deserved. When we stood to leave, she asked, What now? Now we go be the people we pretended we were with them, I said. And we don't apologize for the space that creates. She smiled a little. I like that. Me too, I said and meant it. Outside, the sky was the cold blue that makes mountains look like honesty. I stuck my hands in my pockets and headed home to pack a little of myself into boxes labeled keep and return. I put the Pelican postcard in keep. Not because I want to remember Tampa. Because I want to remember who bought it, a man who loved big and is learning to love smart. Tomorrow there will be movers and logistics and the administrative sighs of a life rerouted. Tonight there will be quiet. The good kind. Airports are supposed to feel like movement. Escalators humming, suitcases rolling, flight boards flickering like slot machines. But when you're marched off a plane after turbulence and fists, it feels less like transit and more like Judgment Day. They split us up the moment the jet bridge swallowed us. Greg in one room, me in another, Natalie in a third. Fluorescent lights, beige walls, and a table too clean for the things it had to hear. The airline supervisor came in with a clipboard and the kind of voice that could calm both toddlers and lawsuits. Tell me what happened, she said, pen hovering. I didn't dress it up. He shoved his seat back into my knees. He grabbed my hat. He escalated. I defended myself. I sat when told. You know them? She asked. My girlfriend, I said, pointing vaguely at the wall that separated me from Natalie. And her co-worker. My mouth twisted. Or whatever he is now. The supervisor nodded, no judgment in her eyes, just the kind of professional pity they give you when they know you didn't buy this ticket. She wrote for a while, then asked, Do you want to press charges? No, I said. I just want to go home. Then came the airport police. 2 officers, tired eyes, pads out. Same questions, same answers, except this time I added a photo. The one I'd snapped mid-flight, Greg's hand on Natalie's thigh, her head on his shoulder, my hoodie like a flag of occupation. One of the cops whistled under his breath. "That's pretty clear." "Clear enough," I said. My throat was steady, even if my stomach was a war zone. They didn't cuff me. Didn't scold me. They just gave me the rundown. Greg would get a citation for disorderly conduct, maybe a temporary ban from the airline. Natalie? Nothing official, but she wasn't walking out untarnished either. The whole cabin had seen her tears, her hands, her choices. They let me go first. Walking back into Concourse C, the noise hit me like surf. Families, rolling bags, intercom voices, the smell of pretzels and disinfectant. A normal day for everyone else. A funeral for the life I thought I had. My phone buzzed. Natalie. Natalie, please, Jake. Please wait. I need to explain. I stared at the words. Didn't reply. I pocketed the phone and kept walking until I hit the escalator down to baggage claim. That's when Aaron, my best friend, texted, heard about the flight. Beer? I typed back, yeah? Make it strong. Home looked the same. Doormat crooked. Keys on the hook. The picture of us at Red Rocks still smiling from the fridge. Except the silence was different. It wasn't the quiet after laughter, or the pause between conversations. It was the hush of a courtroom after the verdict has been read. I walked through each room, seeing her fingerprints everywhere, the half-burned candle, the shoes by the door, the books she pretended to read. I gathered them. Box by box, shelf by shelf. A logistics man packing away love-like inventory. On the kitchen counter, I set her suitcase. Inside, her clothes, her makeup, her charger. On top, my hoodie, folded sharp, like a flag over a fallen empire. Next to it, I left a note. Natalie. You lied at 30,000 feet. You lied when gravity was the only witness. And the lie didn't break me, it freed me. The apartment is paid through the end of the lease. Take what's yours. Leave the key. I won't be here when you return. Jake. I left before she came back. Spent the night on Aaron's couch, listening to him half snore, half choke on a dream about nachos. It was the first time in weeks I felt my chest unclench. The next day, she texted again. Natalie, you can't just leave. Please. I was scared. I didn't mean it. And then, do you still love me? I typed. Deleted. Typed again. Finally sent, not my job anymore. Friends, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Because stories like this don't end at the gate, they echo in the choices we make afterward. Now, back to ours. The fallout spread like spilled coffee. Greg's wife messaged me on Facebook, said she wanted to talk. Apparently she'd already filed for separation. HR at their company launched an internal review, and rumors flew faster than the plane had. As for Natalie? She begged. Showed up at the door twice. Left voicemails that swung between apologies and anger. 1 minute. You're the best thing I ever had. The next. You're cruel for abandoning me. But the cruelest thing wasn't my silence. It was the truth she now had to live with. That the man she betrayed was stronger quiet than she and Greg were loud. Megan, Greg's wife, looked like the kind of person who cleans up other people's messes and still apologizes for the smell. Black coffee, hair tied back, a face that could have passed for composed if you didn't know where to look. The cafe around us hummed with laptops and latte art, normal life doing its best to outvote drama. Jake? She said, offering a hand and an exhausted smile. Thanks for meeting me. Thanks for reaching out. I said and meant it. You don't often get to compare maps with the other person who's been gaslit by the same weather system. We didn't waste time with adjectives. We traded nouns and verbs. Dates. Screenshots. The name of the Tampa hotel that wasn't near a hospital. A calendar entry that read quarterly planning during a weekend that featured a rooftop pool. My photo from row 12. Her email from HR, stern, careful, clearly written by someone who'd been to too many trainings to write what they really wanted to say. At one point she slid a printed thread across to me. Greg to a buddy. It's just turbulence. She'll never know. There was a winky face. The kind you send when you've never met a consequence you couldn't charm. I gave Megan the line I'd written to myself in notes on the plane. I saw you. At altitude, where lies don't float. We land soon. So does this. She read it twice and nodded like a judge. What now? She asked. Now we build, I said. For ourselves. She gave a tired laugh. Been a while since anyone said we to me without trying to sell me something. We stood. She reached for the ring she'd set next to her cup and didn't put it back on. Thanks, Jake. For being decent when it would have been easy to be loud. Loud already happened at 30,000 feet. I said. I'm trying boring. Boring sounds like a plan, she said, and left to start a divorce. No one warns you how to schedule around dentist appointments and dog food. At home, the apartment had that staged photos look, too clean, too empty, a museum of recent living. The entry shelf held one key. Her key. The suitcase was gone. So were the shoes by the door, the candle, the framed print she swore made the place feel grown. The pelican postcard remained. Small mercy. I stuck it behind a magnet shaped like a mountain and decided Tampa could be a punchline, not a wound. I found a note on the counter in the loopy handwriting I'd once called cute. Jake. I'm sorry. I don't know why I kept trying to live two lives. One where I'm taken care of, another where I'm exciting. I know you don't owe me an answer. I know I broke something I can't buy back. Thank you for not screaming. Thank you for not being Greg. N. I put it in a drawer with instruction manuals and warranties, things people keep just in case, then never use. I changed the Wi-Fi name to Row 12 free and the password to something only I would find funny. Petty? Maybe. Healing? Absolutely. The next morning I got an email from the airline. Subject line, Incident Follow-up. Dry acknowledgements, a summary of accounts, a gentle reminder that crew authority is absolute. A single line made me pause. We appreciate your measured cooperation. The custodian of my dignity had finally filed their report, and it used the word I needed most, measured. HR from Natalie and Greg's company pinged my inbox too. Polite, surgical. Could I confirm the dates/times attached to my photo? I forwarded the boarding pass. No commentary. No extra sauce. I wasn't trying to get anyone fired. The truth was doing that for me on its lunch break. I muted Natalie's number. Not blocked. Muted. Blocking felt like using a sledgehammer on drywall. Muting is a well-set screw, invisible, effective, and strangely satisfying if you like things to sit flush. For a week, the silence sank in like good rain. I cooked real meals, burned exactly one, read chapters out loud so the rooms learned my voice again, ran until my lungs remembered they were made for oxygen and not speeches. I slept. Honest sleep. The kind you can't buy with melatonin or apologies. Friends checked in. Aaron brought over a plant that looked like it was daring me to keep another living thing alive. I named it Closure, to keep myself honest. My sister mailed me a photo of us as kids building a blanket fort with architect-grade seriousness. On the back she'd written, "You've always been a builder. Don't let this make you a guard." I taped it inside the cabinet with the coffee so I'd see it every morning before caffeine had a chance to editorialize. A week later, Megan texted, "He's out." I'm okay. Coffee sometime as civilians? I replied, as civilians, yes. We never scheduled it. Maybe the point was knowing we could. That same day, my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. Voicemail transcription. Hi Jake, this is Daniel from Airline Customer Relations. We're extending a travel credit for the disruption. More importantly, our crew wanted me to pass along their thanks for your cooperation and composure. I saved it. Not for the credit. For the word. Composure. I said it out loud in an empty kitchen and heard it echo like it belonged there. Elise came into my life like soft light. Not as a rebound. Not as an antidote. As a person. We met at a friend's game night, of all painfully human places, where people who pretend to hate rules argue about board game rules for an hour before playing. She laughed at the right parts, didn't fill silences with resume lines, and didn't ask about my week like she was auditioning to be the nicest person in a toothpaste commercial. We grabbed coffee. She asked good questions. Not, "What do you do?" but, "What did you used to be certain about that you're not anymore?" I told her that good intentions fix bad behavior. She nodded like she had retired a few certainties, too. We took it slow. I mean actual slow, not Instagram, soft launch, slow. No rush to turn us into content. No performative captions. Just dinner that tasted like someone else cooked for once, and walks where we stopped because the sky was doing something cheap and magnificent. The first time I told her what happened on the plane, she didn't make a face like she wanted to edit me for tone. She just said, "That must have been lonely." Which is the truest thing anyone can say about betrayal. "Yeah," I said, and felt seen in a way that doesn't fit in a caption. There was one more loop to close, and it wasn't the dramatic one. It was dull and necessary, the lease. I met the landlord in the lobby. He handed me a new set of keys, shook my hand, and said, "You'll be fine." Landlords aren't poets, but sometimes they stub a toe on wisdom. On my way back upstairs, I passed Ms. Alvarez from 3B, the neighbor who always smelled like cinnamon and said little wisdoms in the elevator. "You look lighter," she said, like she was commenting on the weather and my soul in the same breath. "Feels lighter," I said. "Good," she nodded. "Less to carry means farther to go." One afternoon, while sorting the junk drawer, a ritual equal parts therapy and archaeology, I found the boarding passes I'd printed for Tampa. Hers and mine. I held them together for a second, paper edges aligned like they could be something again if I stapled hard enough. Then I fed them through the shredder. It gave the weirdest, most satisfying little purr. Halfway through that mechanical exorcism, I took a breath and did the thing that feels awkward to say but necessary to keep saying here, where we're building something together out of stories and lessons. Friends, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Because sometimes the quiet endings are the most useful ones. And because there's a difference between getting even and getting better. Now, back to ours. A month out, I got one last message from Natalie. It started with a paragraph about therapy and ended with a request to talk. For closure. Once upon a time I would have believed closure was something you granted like a parade permit. Now I know, closure is something you give yourself by not walking back through doors you just locked. I typed, "I wish you well. I'm not available for that conversation." Then I muted the thread forever and watched the dot stop pretending to be a horizon. I don't think she's evil. I don't need her to be. I think she's human in the sloppiest sense, wanting all of the comfort and all of the excitement, and learning too late that you can hold both in one hand without dropping the truth. She'll figure it out or she won't. That's not my work anymore. My work is the quiet stuff, showing up for my people, taking the long way home because the sky is doing that cheap and magnificent thing again, watering Closure the plant, texting Megan a thumbs up when her new place finally has furniture, asking Elise to tell me the things she's afraid she might be wrong about, and listening like we're both allowed to outgrow our former certainties. I still fly. I still choose aisle seats. I still watch the safety demo, not because I don't know it, but because there's a strange holiness and repetition when you've seen what happens without it. The first time I boarded after everything, the plane smelled like every plane, and my pulse spiked like my body remembered better than my brain. I buckled in. I breathed in fours. The wheels left the ground, and I didn't. I stayed. With myself. The best revenge was never rage. It was standards. It was composure. It was the unglamorous, undefeated decision to leave all that noise at the gate and choose a life where love doesn't need an audience to feel true. When the plane leveled off above a quilt of clouds, a flight attendant came by with the cart. "Water?" she asked. "Please," I said. She handed me a cup and smiled with the kind of kindness that doesn't ask for a tip jar. I raised it a fraction, my own small toast, and thought of altitude, of gravity, of how lies sink and people can rise if they stop using each other as flotation devices. We landed on time. No applause. No turbulence. Just the simple mercy of wheels touching down, and a day that didn't need to prove anything. I slung my bag over my shoulder, stepped into the aisle, and joined the slow, polite procession toward the door. This time, the ground didn't feel colder than the sky. It felt like home. Airports have this strange dual nature. For some people, they mean beginnings, honeymoons, reunions, fresh starts. For me, stepping off that plane after everything that went down felt like crawling out of a wreck. My shirt was ripped from the fight, my cheekbones still sore, my pride scarred worse than both. But I walked off that jet bridge with my head up. No sunglasses, no hoodie pulled low. People stared. They'd seen the commotion mid-flight. They'd probably whispered about the guy whose wife got caught cheating 30,000 feet in the air. I let them look. Let them take in the bruises, the tight jaw, the silence in my steps. Because for the first time in months, maybe years, I wasn't the fool in this story. I wasn't the guy who got lied to, pacified, gaslit. I was the guy who finally ripped the curtain back and let the whole theater see the play for what it was. Authorities met us at the gate, of course. Uniforms, badges, notepads out. They wanted statements from everyone involved. The flight attendants gave theirs, shaky but honest. A couple of passengers jumped at the chance to play eyewitness. "Yes, officer, we saw her practically draped over him before her husband lost it." They pulled me aside like I was the dangerous one. And maybe I looked it. But then I handed over my phone. The texts. The photos. The receipts I'd collected long before this flight. Proof that what happened at 35,000 feet wasn't some jealous tantrum. It was the climax of months of betrayal. The cop scrolled through the screenshots, exhaled through his teeth, and just muttered, "Damn." That's when I knew, even if I walked out of there in handcuffs, the truth was already on my side. They didn't cuff me. They took her and lover boy into another room for questioning. I didn't ask what they said, didn't care. My story was clear, and for once, it wasn't me stumbling to explain. Walking out of that terminal alone, luggage handle in one hand, phone buzzing with unanswered calls in the other, I felt lighter. Not happy. Not free. Just lighter. Like carrying a load for too long and finally setting it down, realizing your shoulders still ache but at least you're not bent double anymore. The next weeks were messy. Papers filed. Lawyers involved. Families dragged into the fallout like unwilling extras. Her parents called me begging for forgiveness, as if I could sprinkle holy water on their daughter's choices and reset the whole thing. My parents? They just shook their heads. Said they'd seen the signs long before I did. Maybe they had. Maybe I didn't want to listen. But the house was mine. The peace was mine. And slowly, I remembered what silence felt like. The good kind, not the tense, suffocating silence of suspicion. I boxed up her things. Every photo, every trinket, every little lie disguised as a memory. I stacked the boxes by the door, called her brother, told him to come get them. I didn't want her in my house ever again. Funny thing is, when I finally locked that door behind me, the emptiness wasn't terrifying. It was calming. 4 walls, 1 man, 0 lies. And here's the kicker. I didn't fall apart. I didn't waste away like some tragic figure. I rebuilt. Slowly, piece by piece. A new routine. A new circle of people. Even a few new laughs that weren't stained by bitterness. Every scar, physical and emotional, became part of the story, not of a victim, but of a man who walked through fire and didn't let it consume him. And maybe that's the lesson here. Cheating doesn't just break trust, it breaks illusions. The illusion that love alone can protect you from betrayal. The illusion that vows are unshakable. The illusion that someone else defines your worth. Turns out, my worth was never hers to decide. So if you've been where I've been, if you've ever sat in the dark wondering how someone who promised forever could torch it so casually, hear this. It's not the end of your story. It's the ugly middle chapter, sure, but not the end. Because the end? That's yours to write. And mine begins here. No longer her husband, no longer her fool, just a man free to live life on his own terms. Friends, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. More stories, raw, painful, but real, are coming soon. Let me know in the comments, what would you have done if you were in my seat on that flight?